Well-being, for what it's worth, at its simplest, I would define it as a sense of contentment. But I think it combines your mental health, your physical health, and that feeling of, are you in a good place? Is the place you're in, does it make you feel good about being there? And if you're spending 8 hours a day in the workplace, well, it's hard to feel contented if your physical or your mental health is poor.
It's about usefulness, purpose and dignity as much as anything. And that's the bit that I think sometimes is missing.
It really is a strategic issue. Yeah. And the good news, I think, is more and more companies are doing the strategic issue. Yeah. They're seriously saying, strategically, how do we look at our line managers? How do we look at flexible working? They look at the full package.
We need to look at individuals more holistically and realise that people are all at different stages in terms of well-being and all have different backgrounds and all have different requirements. And therein lies one of the contemporary challenges for employers, is how do you cater to varying needs across your employee base.
When we first set out our wellbeing programme, we thought we knew best, and we set out what the wellbeing programme would look like, and it started to fail. And surprise, surprise, when we asked the question, why is it failing, we got the answers that we needed, which was where we should have been asking the questions in the first instance. What should our wellbeing programme include?
Actually, what matters is how you run your business and whether you run it in a way that empowers people and makes people feel happy at work.
Which is about leadership, and the board having a direct input into what the health of their workforce is. So instead of talking about workplace accidents, which clearly they still need to do, we should be talking about how healthy is our workforce and what are we doing within the constraints that are available to us to try and improve that. What's that plan, what's that strategy?
We should be measuring what we do. We should be measuring it, and that's what we give the board. We give the CFO, the CEO, HR guys and gals, we give them that data.
But you know,
and you can do it, and it's not complicated.
You can, but there's a challenge around measuring the softer parts of that. So businesses don't measure well absence, but they do measure it, most of them. They don't measure lack of productivity within the workplace.
Employers have got a statutory duty if they're in the private sector to actually, sort of make a profit. That's what they've got to do, right? So you concentrate on productivity and sickness absence, okay? The reality is that as a lot of companies have found out, it actually is more productive to actually treat your workers disposable. That's how the gig economy actually developed.
Unfortunately, many organisations that I work with have got limited budgets for wellbeing. And I think one of the ways that you can inform your wellbeing strategy is deep data analytics. So look at things like your absence data, you've got employee benefits and so on. So understand what the underlying health risks are, and that is where you target your spending.
What I've heard is incentivisation of both employer and employee. I'd love to see something coming from the government on how that can work, but that is aspirational, and that could take us another 20 years to get anywhere near the percentage of organisations that need to do that.
Sometimes it gets worse before it gets better, and people think, what's happening here? But you have to lift the lid on it to get it to kind of to see what you're dealing with, and then put your interventions in place.
The idea that now the line manager is basically a personnel officer, a welfare officer, a technical officer, etc. That is nonsense. And rather than actually saying, we need to recruit this kind of person, all line managers have to have this wonderful set of skills. It's because basically the organisations are passing the buck.
We've got more people suffering with work-related stress, depression and anxiety today than we did last year. 44% of that relates to workload. And that's followed by job insecurity and change in the organisation. So from a workload perspective, the line manager holds the key.
We don't look at that primary level of intervention, the job design. You don't get it right in the first place. You have all these other things, but you've got someone collapsing under the load of a badly designed job because there's too much to do, or there's the risk of violence and it's not managed. So I do think it helps to go primary, secondary, tertiary on some of this.
I think we need to go back to the fundamentals on how you become a line manager. I think we're being disrespectful to individuals and lacking in support by putting individuals in managerial positions with without the skill set to do it.
To me, the biggest tool for measurement is the whites of the eyes test. Staring at somebody and having a conversation with them on the shop floor, saying, what does it feel like for you? Has the strategy that I got endorsed by the board landed on the shop floor of a delivery office or a mail centre? Do you know how to access the employee assistance programme? Do you know what Because Healthy Minds Matters is about?
If you're working in an organisation that hasn't created an environment where an individual feels able and comfortable to be open and honest, what you'll get is the nodding dog routine. Yeah, everything's fine.
You can't really determine well-being until you've defined what it is and how you're going to measure. And none of these measuring tools actually do that. So I've seen them.
I don't agree with you. The tools are okay. I think I agree with James.
Yeah.
Vitality does stuff in this arena. I think the tools are good. Where I think the problem is, and that comes in a trade union sense, very importantly, is once you get the data, what do you do with it?
There's nothing inherently evil or good about technology. It's just how we play, isn't it? It's just how it's managed.
It's how it's managed. It's just guidelines is all we need.
The things that really annoy people are being expected to reply immediately. And the fact that, if you sent a letter, you didn't actually expect them to get a reply within an hour. And often it would be days or weeks sometimes.
I absolutely believe in the flexibility and allowing people to, do their work as and when they wanted to fit around their lives. But if the line manager's sending an email at 9 or 11
I'm
p.m,
expecting a reply.
the concern is that sets a tone for the team, and the team suddenly feel anxious that might be the same expectation of them.
There's lots now of training programs out there for line managers. It's become sort of trendy. But with goodness knows what standards they're all at and what they're all doing. I mean, there are just a lot of them, and I think that is an issue.
From my perspective, employers, having spoken to a lot of smaller organisations, they're saying we're looking for an authoritative voice. We'd like to know how we make our way through this maze of advice on mental health, well-being, etc. Who can we trust that might give us some simple advice on what good looks like and where to start?
At the moment, if an employer wants to do something, they'll probably go to Google. I'm serious, most employees, they will actually go to Google to find out what it is, or perhaps something in the trade journal and so on. We need some kind of evidence-based, authoritative approach to employers, what they can actually do and why they should be doing it.
It's not just about training, it's about the support network that you need to create. And if you could broaden that to well-being.
Because even in the service sector, say the finance sector, although they're not major safety issues in that sense, psychological safety. We're talking, you really have a potential for broadening what you offer. It's not just construction sites. People's psychological health is at risk.